G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me again. Another video, chilling with Keithy. I'm glad to be here saying g'day to you right now. So if it wasn't funny enough that an old mate from New Zealand had come over to say g'day to me, Mike, g'day again, mate. If you're watching, Craig, I want to say g'day to you too. Good mate of mine, Craig, has actually just returned to Townsville. Big trip. G'day, mate. Hope to see you again soon. Good thanks to everyone for the messages of support and the chats that we've had over the Chilling with Keithy over there on Facebook, and same on here in the comment section on YouTube. Been fantastic, and the support I guess I'm getting from you guys with what's going on with me at the moment is absolutely second to none. It's unbelievable. I really do appreciate everyone's kind words, comments of goodwill, and etc. etc. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Couldn't go without checking this out.
Preparing tyres now. G'day, Keithy here. G'day, Keithy here.
G'day,
Keithy here.
Before I get too far into all of the talk about fuel and gas and whatnot, which is a big thing at the moment, I'll just touch on the brain tumour because I get quite a lot of messages on Chilling with Keithy about that. So I'll show you where it's at right now. No doubt you've already seen a little snippet, a little bit when I turn my head, and then we'll move into the fuel stuff. So I'll turn my head, and you can see now. Looks like I have a pair of backward sunglasses on my head. So I'm not completely through my treatment yet. I've still got quite a lot going on with regards to the brain tumour. And with the radiation and the chemotherapy, which I am doing, as I spoke about in the last video, they are both happening. They're both every single day of the week. And they're not going to end this year. I'll be going right through to the end of this year on the treatment. It's going well, but it's very fatiguing. So I don't know if you notice, but my eyes are quite glazed all the time. I'm actually tired. I'm sleeping every day during the day, during the night. I have no energy. I have no strength. I think I've lost quite a lot of muscle tone. I don't know if that's noticeable to you or not. There's a lot of things, a lot of effects that this has on the body that are just so draining, so hard hitting. And that'll lead to the next video that I'll probably do, the Chilling with Keithy, next number 3, regarding what happens in circumstances like this, because obviously I haven't been at work since last year, since November last year. So there's pay implications and things like that as well for when things like this happen. And this is something that's preparedness is a good thing. So I'll get into that in the next video. So episode 2, Chilling with Keithy. What are we going to talk about today? Okay, I'll try and keep it to one topic. And I wanted to keep it to fuel prices this time because, as I'm sure you're very aware, if you live in Australia, I'm sure if you live in any country for that matter, fuel prices at the moment are actually going up quite dramatically. So in the last video that I talked to you guys, I was actually touching on that Range Rover about the cost of operating it, like the fuel prices and how it affects everything like that. So we've got another four-wheel drive here as well, a diesel four-wheel drive. So we sort of cover all the bases with the petrol being the Range Rover, the gas being the Range Rover, and the diesel with the other four-wheel drive that we have here. It's very interesting to sort of compare now the difference between not only fuel prices but fuel economy and how that all relates to costs, to operating costs of the vehicle. So, I mean, as you're probably aware, no doubt yourself, you've got kids or you've got work or you've got all of these commitments that no doubt run around with your life as well, that mean you're out driving. Everyone needs to drive to get somewhere. I mean, obviously there are people who don't have vehicles that might live in the really big cities that catch a bus or a train or, taxis or whatever it may be to get around. But for that percentile of people who rely upon their vehicle daily for a commute, whether it's to work or et cetera, no doubt you're feeling the crunch now. Up in North Queensland here, diesel's about $2.30 a litre. Your average 91 octane unleaded is sitting around that $2.04 a litre. And if you want premium unleaded, like the 95 type premium, you're paying around that $1.15 to $1.20. $2.15 to $2.20 a litre for that at the moment. So hasn't that gone up? It was only, I believe it was the last video I was talking about getting into the LPG stuff, and the reason that I was doing it on the Range Rover, and this was before everything in Russia had happened, before the Olympics, before absolutely everything, that I was looking at getting that LPG system up to scratch and operational again. At that stage, it wasn't for a fuel consumption or cost base. I mean, it would have had a bit to play with it, obviously. But when you look at it now, where I am, with LPG being about $1.45 per litre, definitely makes sense to try and run that Range Rover on gas. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what my plans are with that and what's happening with that, why I really should be sitting next to it right now talking to you. But as the sun goes down here, there's a lovely little bit of a patina in the sky, patina in the sky. So what more about the Range Rover? Well, I'm going to tell you something now. You'll see, hopefully I can do a video up if I have the energy. Unfortunately, I don't have the strength. But what has happened now is that I spent this time preparing the Range Rover prior to my surgery so that I wouldn't have to work on it. I did oil change in January, I think it was, and that took me the best part of a day to do anyway. That was the hardest thing I've done. It's something that's a very easy job normally, but when you're very physically limited, that was so hard. It's a funny story. The starter motor in the Range Rover just gave up on me last week. And that is a shame because it was so hot. As you would have seen in that last video, the temperatures were 35 plus here. It was really hot. It's actually almost overnight. The temperature has dropped down. So it's been about a week now, maybe a little bit more than a week. And the daytime temperatures are starting to drop. It's starting to get into the change of seasons, which is really good, thankfully. But I still don't have the strength. And I have to say thanks to Brian, if you're watching. Brian came and saved my bacon, and he ripped out the starter motor in the Range Rover for me on a couple of days ago, about 3 or 4 days ago. So I've got a new starter motor for that Range Rover coming. I probably won't do a video because I'm not actually doing the work. Unfortunately, I can't do that. And then the old Range Rover will be going again. Just timing is everything, but it is what it is. I'm just very, very glad that at least the season is changing. It's a little bit cooler now to make that job a little bit less of a hot job to do on the Range Rover. Also on the topic of starter motors, I rang around to get the new starter motor ordered, and would you believe it, to buy a Bosch starter motor for that Range Rover, they wanted $1,200, and that had a 1-year warranty. I thought that was a little bit expensive, so I rang around. I had, I think it might have been 3 or 4 quotes that said $1,200 to $1,100 to $1,200. They tried as good as they could to get the price down, but unfortunately, I don't know why. I mean, I bought starter motors in the past. I did one on the blue Range Rover maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I can definitely remember buying that. Was a Bosch one that I bought for that. And that starter motor was only about $350 then. So something's gone really weird with Bosch just for that specific part to go up in such dramatic price, because that starter motor itself actually fits the V8 Defenders and also the Discovery 1 and 2s with the V8s and the Range Rover Classics. So it's not like it's just a one-off for the P38 Range Rover, but here we are. So I was lucky to get like a no-name brand from Supercheap. It's on order. It still hasn't arrived yet. In order to get this job done, because you imagine paying $1,200, and that's with me, or Brian, thankfully, helping me out to get that put in. If I had to pay a mechanic as well, there's another couple of $100 in that. I certainly know and see you coming when you say the word Range Rover, that's for sure. But anyway, that's just another little bit of fun and games that's happening at the moment. So the poor thing hasn't done any Ks. I've got a tank full of gas and a tank full of petrol, and just can't start the poor thing. What I did notice too is that you can buy rebuild kits for the starter motors for these things, and essentially it's just the windings at the top that engage and kick it off. So from memory, that's about $50 to $80 Australian, which is about, I think it's about £40 UK. So I think I might look at doing that too. If I can rebuild that old starter motor, that might be a job that I can do now. If I have the energy and the capacity to do that, definitely be something to get into. And then I've got another spare starter motor. I did think about taking the starter motor off the black Range Rover, which is sitting out there. It's working perfectly fine, that car. I should really put a number plate on and drive it around, because honestly, I go around there once every 6 months and I'll turn the key and start it. It starts first time every time. Hasn't used a drop of oil or any coolant or anything like that. And I normally, once every 2 or 3 months, I'll go out there and start it and run it for 20 minutes and move it up and down the yard. So it's a shame I haven't actually registered and started using that thing, because the aircon in that, beautiful. So that can be, that was an option that I did think of, but I don't want to rape that car for parts, because it's still a running operational car, usable car. And if I was to start taking parts off it out there, then I'm going to end up with a junkyard, essentially. I don't want to have bits and pieces pulled off a car and then not have the ability to move it if I want to. Say I'd have a machine come up the side of the yard for some work or anything like that. That would be a little bit sad, and I don't want to do that. So what else has been going on lately in terms of that Range Rover? Well, it has been the Steed that's been doing all of the running around. I mentioned it earlier that the cost of LPG, auto gas, they call it over here, is about $1.44, $1.45 a litre at the moment. And that makes that Range Rover so affordable. Like, I fueled it up the other day for, I think, $82 or something like that. And that'll get it around for a week, no worries. Where in comparison to fill the petrol tank up in that thing, which is a 100-litre tank, and because it has got the high compression motor, it needs the premium unleaded fuel at $2.20 or something like that a litre. Even if I'm filling up when the tank's, the fuel light's coming on and it'll take 80, 85 litres or whatever that is, it's still nearly a $200 affair to fuel that up. So running on gas at half the price nearly, it makes such a difference to drive that Range Rover around, and it's actually reasonably economical on the LPG for what it is. But there's probably more to go with that. As I mentioned last time, I got a new set of spark plugs for that, spark plug leads, I should say, that I'd like to fit up to it. I think the reason that I had problems with firing on that was actually the heat rather than the leads, because the daytime temperatures, it was only noticeable that it would start to get these little misfires on one or two of the cylinders on a really hot day, and that was after the engine temperature itself was up quite high, so it's sort of around 95 degrees, which, it's handled. The Range Rover is designed to run a little bit warmer, but I guess the LPG system is not. So there was that clash, and a little bit of a bug. And what I needed to do, I guess, was to try and keep that engine temperature down in order to stop getting to that point where the gas would start to misfire. And it's a bit of a game, especially when you can't control the external temperature. The air conditioning in that Range Rover has been running so cold, but with the external temperatures being so hot, that the heat just generated from the cooling system for the air conditioning is unreal. It's unbelievable, and it amazes me that it actually managed to keep the inside of the car cool during that really hot weather. Now, noticing it now that it's cooled down a little bit, it's to the point where during the day you can actually drive around here with the windows down, and just the breeze that's running through as you drive along is sufficient to keep you cool. It's not uncomfortable doing that. That's how much the weather has changed over this last week up in North Queensland. It's unreal. So, yeah, very interesting times ahead. Once this new starter motor comes in, I'll fit that up. Well, I won't fit it up. I'll probably have to get Brian to come around and give me a hand with that again. Thanks, mate, if you're watching. I really do appreciate it. So the hardest part through all of this, through all of my treatment and everything, has been that I guess I'm a little bit stubborn when it comes to asking for help. I guess to a degree I'm used to doing things on my own. It's just sort of how I've worked. And as you get older, your mates, they will move town and get jobs and have kids, and, things change. So the days of relying upon your mates, they don't disappear, but you sort of you get used to being more self-reliant. And that's what's happened to me over the years, especially with the mining work, working away all the time and whatnot. So the hardest thing through all of this has actually been asking for help. And I'm it's not because I'm too proud to ask for help, but actually just making the call or sending a message to a friend to say, hey, look, I can't do this. Do you think you can help? Has been, it's been very hard. But I'm just glad that I have had the help from mates, and all of my mates have been fantastic throughout all this, giving me a hand where they can. So that's this life lesson that I'm learning now. I shouldn't be stubborn. I shouldn't try and do things myself that I can't do. And that was a classic example with that starter motor. If all I could do was pull an inner guard out, like in my opinion, it is a very easy job. There's no physical, real strength required, and it move a few clips and it falls out. It's very challenging, and I feel very, very limited at the moment. So fingers crossed, the next video I should be able to go and sit in the garage again for you. I didn't want to go and sit out there and annoy the neighbours for this one and sit on the driveway. I thought I'd come and sit out the back. It's a lovely night, and hopefully the scenery out the back there looks pretty good. Hopefully I haven't spooked you too much with my head, wasted your time. I thought I'd check in, say g'day, chilling with Keithy, new little sort of platform, keep in touch with you, pick a different topic every week and have a bit of a chat about it. So good seeing you. Thanks for coming along. Thumbs up. Don't forget the subscribe thing and do all that magic that happens down there. And feel free, sing away with the messages. They're coming through hard and fast. Lots of ones about the mining game as well. A lot of people getting very keen at the moment. There's a bit of movement in South Australia too, with a few mines there, taking some new truck drivers for anyone that's interested. Don't forget to look into that if you're looking at a truck driver's job. But otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Take care.